Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Superman and Lois, Season 3, Episode 10. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Lois going to see Pia. Obviously, the article had already come out about Pia and everything, and obviously Lois she's still conflicted about it and now worried that, like, right, I shouldn't have put that out there. But it's like, yeah, but after everything that went down with Henry Miller last episode, we have no choice. Pia is at the heart of this, especially considering, like, right, this is all connected to Bruno, and obviously she's been a part of it as well. And so Lois wants to get the truth about the Lex situation, which, you know, she is able to talk to Pia. And there's a combination of things, because for Lois, it's like, I want to tell your side of things, because if you don't let me tell your side of things, like, your story is going to get out there. And no, at least I'm going to try and be fair about it. I'm going to try and approach it from a fair point of view, because Lois has already had that, she has both views of you. She knows, like, right, what you and Bruno have done, but she's also got to know you as a friend first and foremost, which has obviously brought about its own complications for her as a journalist, because now it's like this thing of, like, right, I've been kind of a little compromised in my view. Things aren't going to be as balanced, but arguably you could say being friends with Pia has allowed it to be balanced, but it's also kind of skewed things in certain regards, where it's like, this is someone that has cancer, this is someone who's been there, a big supporter and friend to you in your time when you're going through cancer. So it's like, it's all, the scales with that balance has always kind of, it's been flip-flopping a lot lately. It's like, right, let me tell your story, because I'm going to tell it from a perspective where people get to see you for who you are, not just the monster people try to paint you as, like, oh, I'm this superpowered killer. It's like, no, because she'd also never wanted to spin in a negative connotation towards people with powers, because, hey, obviously Pia doesn't know this, but her husband has powers and he's like the greatest hero in this world. Also, her son has powers, and she would never want people with power to be, like, demonized in that way. But so she wants who Pia is to be first and foremost, and not, like, seen as this superpowered monster type of situation. So it's like, right, tell us everything about what you were mixed up in, and eventually it gets to the whole, right, Moxie thing. And it's like, oh, well, Lex, killed him. And it's like, no, I heard the recording. I know it was you. And Pia brings up the greatest and most complicated point of Lex Luthor. I can give you a laundry list of terrible things that he did, worse than the murder of Moxie. And are you willing to let him go? Because Pia's like, I can't tell the truth, because by telling the truth, I mean, I think it also, it cement things and complicate things, not only for her as a mother, when it comes to Mateo, but also, like, there's also that complicated thing of, like, because I was about to say, like, there is a whole thing of, like, spouses don't have to, they can kind of plead the fifth when it comes to, like, something that would incriminate their significant other. But it's also, like, to be fair, it's like he never did anything. She's the one that did all the killing in that room. So it does 100% fall on her. But she knows, like, it'll come back on him. But also she doesn't want that out there for her son to know, like, yeah, because she's willing to admit some of the bad stuff she does. But I don't know if she's admitted to any murders she did, even when she worked for Moxie, because she was his hitter. Because I think they know, like, I don't think it was just hurting people. I'm pretty sure she killed people for Moxie. So it's not like killing Moxie and it was, like, her first. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe she had used her power to threaten and hurt people. But maybe she hadn't, at that point in time, maybe she hadn't quite killed people. Maybe that was her first set of, like, full-blown murders. But I was kind of under the impression she already was one. So I'm kind of confusing myself on that part, whether or not she had already, like, I was just under the impression she was already, like, the hitman hitter. But maybe she had, like, threatened people. She was the muscle, she was the bruiser, but she never actually killed anyone until she killed Moxie and all those people. But it is that perfect conundrum of, what do you do? Because it's like, right, Lex Luthor was a monster before he went to jail. He's even more of a monster now that he's, Because obviously at this point, like, Lex has been in jail for quite a while, because when that went down and they framed him, Mateo wasn't even born yet. So, like, this is like, God, yeah, that flashback and everything was like 17 years ago or something like that, right? So it's like, he's been in there nearly, a little less than 2 decades. So it's like, oh yeah, like, jail can harden someone like that. A man who is that smart and who can be that very obsessive, who can be like, you got 20 plus years of planning and you're just waiting for the opportunity to enact your plans. And it's like, even Lois is like, what do we do about, like, is PR right? And it's like, that's a complicated thing. Like, they know better than anyone who Lex is, what kind of monster he is. That is Clark's ultra nemesis. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, it's all about truth and justice. And regardless of who he is and what he's done, it's like that thing of like, it's the Al Capone of it all. Like, right, what did they get Al Capone? Not the murders, not all like the racketeering and stuff like that. It was tax evasion. And it's like, at least he was guilty of tax evasion. It's like, you know, but it's like, yeah, you got him on a murder he didn't commit. The one murder, the one terrible thing in the world he didn't do, you got him for. But it's like, you know, and especially if the truth ever got out there regardless, and it'll come off like, oh, you didn't do your due diligence. It could come back to bite Lois as a reporter. And like, you know, it's like, right, it's all about truth and justice. It's about, you know, putting the truth out there. And that would mean setting Lex free. But he is the monster that he is. So it's like, it's such a toss-up, but it's like they both kind of agree, like, it has to be done because it is the truth. Their job is to tell the truth, and he shouldn't be in jail for something he didn't do, even though it's just like the world is better off with Lex Luthor behind prison. But there's also the argument could be like, yeah, but Lex is Lex. He could have easily gotten out of the prison situation, but he doesn't want to because he wants to still present himself, because his image is like, yes, I'm this altruistic humanitarian. He'll paint himself in that light, and that's the persona he puts out there in the world. Like, only those who really, really know Lex about the terrible things he's done, because no one's been able to prove any of the terrible things he's done. I mean, even taking like the Lex we got on Supergirl, he presented himself in a certain way and was able to kind of like dodge and avoid like a lot of the things people kind of had like latched onto him. Obviously, he was able to kind of like do a lot of that, obviously, because of Crisis and stuff like that. But, you know, it's still that interesting. It's that interesting thing of like, just, I'm from the perspective of, nah, keep his ass in jail. But it's also like, yeah, but they're about doing the right thing, and freeing him sadly is the right thing because he didn't commit the crime he was accused of. But it's also like, my point was, because he's all about protecting his persona as this caring human being, like, he's not going to bust out. He's going to be like, hey, I did my time for a crime I did. It's going to make his story that much more like, oh my God, sympathetic. He's such a great guy. He had the power and resources. He could have easily busted out in that time frame, but he chose not to because he wanted to believe in the system doing the right thing. And now justice has been served. I can hear it already. That silver-tongued bastard twistiness to make himself seem even better. You already see the script being written, you know? So that's definitely going to be interesting. Like I said, he has enough reach and resources that it's not like his time in prison has ever been anything, but I'm sure he's been in there well guarded, well protected. He's Lex Luthor. He's been fine. You know, he's probably gotten the special treatment, but I'm sure like coming out of prison, he's going to be even angrier. And I think, considering the actor that's going to be playing Lex, it feels like, I think that actor is going to be able to really dive into, like, especially if you want to lean into a more angry Lex. I feel like, God, is it Michael Cruditz? I'm probably butchering his last name. Probably would do a fantastic job kind of bringing that to light. Once again, I'm so interested to see him as Lex. I've never seen him bald, not unless they do the thing of like, no, he's not bald. His hair has grown out. So I'm curious to see how they do that. But either way. So there's that element to it. But Lois tried to like appeal to Pia again. It's like, right, do this at least for your son. Your son's going to have so many questions, and you sadly won't be able to be there to answer them. And it's like, obviously everything she's ever done has been in service of her son. So it's like, right, just at least tell him the truth about everything. Because, you know, he's going to have so many questions, and while you're here, you can be able to answer them. And who knows what would have happened if Mateo hadn't given, like, I thought I knew the cufflinks had to be important. I just didn't know Mateo was in the know about it. I thought like, oh, his dad like put like a device in it so that the moment they go there, he gets close enough to his mom, it automatically goes up. And now it's like, right, that's why Mateo was looking a little kind of like nervous because of doing what he's doing. Because now he is an accomplice in all this. He did help his mom. And especially because for Pia, it's like, right, I did all the terrible things I had to do so my son would never have to. I wanted him to have options, have choices. Me and Bruno, we did what we did because we had no options. There were no options available at the time. But our son, we wanted to make sure he had a bright future ahead of him being able to make that choice. And now it's like, you wanted him not involved in all this, but he is now. He's kind of in the family business, which, you know, beautiful parallel because the Kents are in the same ballpark where it's like, hey, we're in this... we are they're also in the same, they're in the family business. That's the more crime supervillain family business. This is the more superhero family business and hero family business type of thing. So, but ultimately Bruno kind of perfected a cure, but I doubt it's perfected. It might be kind of like a if you've seen Sweet Tooth, it's probably very similar in like Sweet Tooth where it's like it's a temporary thing. So we'll see whether like she's cured or what she's just better. It might not last forever. It might like subside the symptoms, but she'll probably need it over and over again for the rest of her life. Or maybe she's permanently good now. I don't know, but that's definitely going to be interesting to see. Like, I don't think it's going to be an easy cure. There has to be a drawback to it that they just don't know about yet. I mean, because that was the whole point about the experiments with the others, like keep injecting them over and over again because it never lasted forever. It eventually wore off. So we'll have to wait and see. But Pia busted out. And the thing is, like, for her, it's like, Lois is telling her not to do this. You're going to make things worse. You're going to make your son an accomplice. And Pia saying, like, right, different world, different life. Like, you and I could have easily been, like, really good friends and we wouldn't have had these complicated circumstances. But this is the life and the reality we live in. And she bust out. I thought it was so dope when, like, when Clark heard some screaming and stuff and he went somewhere and was like, wait, why isn't he immediately where Lois is? Was like, Pia. I was like, that power is because Lois was like, yo, the moment you bust open this door, like, not only is every person in this facility going to know about you, but also Superman's going to be on his way. And like that power to like kind of like project a voice, but also like mimic other stuff. It's like, that's powerful with messing with Clark. And like, that's so good at being able to utilize it. Clark caught on, but it was just enough time for Pia to get away. It's because he's like, yeah, she probably projected it so it could like seem like it's coming from like super far away, that even at super speed, it still take him time to like get there. Wait, something's wrong. Even though it took a couple seconds to figure out, still took him time to fly back to find out that Pia had escaped. So I was curious if she was going to be pissed at Bruno, but it's like, no, she's actually happy because it's like, right, you did what you did. I thought she'd be pissed because it's like, right, you made Mateo an accomplice in all this. It's like, right, especially because she didn't want him to know about everything, but now it's like he does, but he doesn't know everything because Bruno is still hidden a lot of the more terrible aspects of like what they did to get this far. Like, yeah, Mateo probably knows about some of their crime, but I don't know. Maybe Mateo does know about everything, but the way Bruno was like, wait, you can't seriously think I was, I am the killer that John Henry Irons is saying that I am. It's like, even though you are, you know, then I'm like, that's when I feel like he doesn't know everything. But the moment he finds out everything, it will change everything between them. It's like his mom's better now and stuff, and he has more time with her. So a lot of that's going to outweigh any truth he finds out. But knowing like your parents are kind of monsters, that they've killed people, I don't know. But knowing like, hey, like we killed someone and we framed Lex Luthor. But yes, we framed the monster that is Lex Luthor. So he's going to be in, you know, so it's not like we frame like an innocent or good person. We pick a terrible human being to like take the fall for all of it. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And kind of going back to the cure element, I'm curious like how that's going to play when it comes to Lois. Because we know, like, right, I don't know if Pia will try and do something where she can try and make sure that everyone else, like at the hospital, the chemo place, has what they need to, like, be able to cure their cancers, and maybe in the process also help Lois. Because regardless of it all, you're still my friend, and you got cancer. This is your final treatment. You got to ring the bell. So And we still don't know how things are going to play out for Lois post this. Like, will her, because her mastectomies is coming up too, and obviously she dealt with that last episode. So, but obviously it's still kind of like a worrying concern, regardless of it helped alleviate some of that worry and stuff last episode, but still kind of an issue. So we'll have to wait to see where things kind of go on that front. On the other side of things, we had Clark, who is so excited about spending time with the boys, but I love they're so focused on the video games. Like, yeah, sure, whatever, Dad. And he wanted to hang out with them because it's like, hey, I don't get to spend as much time with you guys, so I want to do it. And that's the sad thing, especially later on when Jonathan kind of callously threw it in his dad's face about we're growing up and we can't you can't ask us to kind of put our lives on pause because you're like, hey, you have free time now. It's like, yeah, you're canceling on us all the time. It's like, yeah, you're doing the Superman thing, but it's still that thing of, yeah, but that's just the downside of being a superhero. And it's just like, I think for Clark, that's probably that element where it's moments like this where he goes like, right, me being a Superman has cost me time with my family over the years. Like, right, my boys are growing up so fast and time is flying by so fast. And so, especially when you think about the fact is because of the way Kryptonians age and stuff, at least here on Earth, I don't think it's applicable on Krypton, but yeah, they do age slower. Like, obviously they had a whole joke about it in Supergirl of Cat Grant being like, oh, look at all these CW actors or whatever in front of me. But it's also because Clark's supposed to be in his 40s, even though Tyler Hoechlin is in his 30s. But they play into that being Kryptonians age slower. Because I think that was even a point that Lois had where it's once again, I'm human. You and Jordan, we don't know what Jordan's because he is still going. The human in him makes it so that kryptonite doesn't affect him. It probably will slow him down, but it probably doesn't. It definitely doesn't have the same effect it does on Clark as a full Kryptonian. But we don't know what that means, age wise, whether he has a Mark Grayson thing going on, Invincible, or it's right, Mark is half Viltrumite, half human, but without spoiling it, we find out what that means. His dad explains that in the season finale. So I'll kind of leave it at that. If you know, you know. But I don't know if the same thing is going to be applicable in his case of maybe he'll age at a slower rate too, or maybe he ages at maybe a slightly slower rate, but maybe not to the same rate his dad does. Either way, my point is right, the kids are getting older, but Jonathan will probably get a little older quicker in some regards and capacity. So it's right, time's slipping by. And he was so excited about taking them to a restaurant. I said, oh, we love this thing. And I love when he's talking to Sam later, and he's just yeah, but it's because Sam's coming from the perspective of hey, your kids don't hate you. All us other parents take that as a win. It's that, especially at the adolescent age. It's that's the age where we've all been fuck you, mom and dad, I mean, obviously, that's the stereotype of oh yeah, the white teenager or something like that. But we all get a little angsty in our teenage years where we just kind of rebel a little bit. We're just nah, we don't want to hang out with our parents as much. I had my phase as well. And I love Clark when he was talking to Lois, being I loved hanging out with my mom. And she's that's what I loved about you. I love about you, Clark. It's well, to be fair, you say that, but we also know, you rebelled a little bit too, especially when you were Jordan's age and coming into your powers and your destiny and when you eventually left. But I guess it's right, when that was when him was probably slightly older, but that's a little different. It's not he hated hanging around his mom. It's just right, I just have a greater destiny ahead of me and I got to figure that out. But but up until then, he probably did enjoy being around his mom until it came to the situation of yeah. And the same thing, and that's the thing of you're kind of being a hypocrite. You're not allowing your children to kind of rise up and grow like your mom let you rise up and grow as well. She missed having you around, but she knew what your destiny held for you, so that your kids want to do more than just hang out with you. Obviously, we're talking more we're not talking about the existential destiny side of things for them. This is just them being average teenagers wanting to hang out with their friends and yada, yada, yada. Still, it's not cool that you lie about it. It's as long as you were honest, it sucks, but as long as you were honest, it would have been fine. But I love that it's going back to the Sam thing of Sam being like, yeah, despite you being you know who, that still is applicable where like, yeah, you're no kid wants to hang out with their parent. And I love that Clark's like, well, I think certain people would think it'd actually be pretty cool having their dad be Superman. And it's like, I love it. He's just like the way he that scene was, I love that. That was so dope. It's like, yeah, well, other kids would be super cool about having, but it's like, yeah, but that's other kids. We're talking about your own children. That's the thing of like, kids never think their parents are cool. Even if other people are like, oh man, your mom and dad, it's cool. No one ever thinks their parents are cool. Everyone's just like, oh geez, mom, dad, like get embarrassed. Like I will always remember like when I was in 6th grade, like it was like a parent day where like parents came in to talk about their careers and stuff. And my mom is a registered nurse. I was living with my mom in Atlanta at the time. My dad was still living here in North Carolina. But my mom came to school and like the entire time I had my head down, you know, cause it's like, not like my mom's embarrassing or whatever, you know, it's obviously like she has certain qualities she would never probably like present to the world out in public or whatever. Like not the most tactful person is what I'm saying sometimes. So, but either way, it's kind of like that. Like everyone gets like that about their parents, you know? So I really resonated with that conversation. I thought that was actually dope, but, tying into all that, I also love, cause they kind of broke their dad's heart by doing that. But, Jordan being like, congratulations, Jonathan. You did the one thing so many people have tried to do, and that is rip out Superman's heart. It's like, yeah, but he'll get over it. And I kind of felt bad for Jordan at this party because the only reason why he came is because Jonathan was invited because Sarah invited him. And it's like, oh, man, that, you know, it's like, oh, wait, she texted you? He's like, yep, for one, we're friends. Plus, like, you keep giving off that weird vibe and making it pretty clear you're still in love with him. And he's like, that's only like half true. It's like, and the poor problem is like Jordan was like such a third wheel there because there's so many people that are like up because a lot of those people are people because he even said like, right, we aren't seniors, like we don't really know any seniors. And so everyone at that party were like, it was a senior party. So she's there with Dean Jr. And Candace was there with Jonathan, so Jordan was kind of the odd man out. And it's that, I mean, Jordan's a super awkward, socially awkward kid, so he tried to jump into the conversation and he just felt like such a third wheel. And it is to think of like, Sarah made it pretty clear of like, yeah, you kind of jumped in the middle of all of that. And he's like, yeah, but you kind of made me feel like you wanted me to go away. And it's just like, it's hard for Jordan because we don't know if he's ever really, like, it's never really come up before, but like, I think that's his first girlfriend. I don't remember Sarah really went into like her dating. No. She was dating someone beforehand. She was dating Home Dude. What is his name? Chris? Home Dude back in season 1, weren't they dating? Yeah, I believe so. So it's like, yeah, like I think Sarah's the first girl he's ever been in love with, you know, so it's hard to shake that as a teenager. Once again, I understand. I remember who I was as a teenager in love, you know, and it's still there to sometimes I have to snap myself out of it. Like, oh, don't be that guy. Don't do that. But it's like, I think especially because with Jordan, like, let's not forget his emotions run a little higher than probably other normal people. I'm sure being a Kryptonian probably like enhances and heightens that. I don't know if it's vampire rules where like every aspect, even your emotions get heightened, but I'd assume like, especially coming into his powers and stuff, that has played a role in everything, especially being the not confident person he's always been, but becoming more and more confident as the series is going on. So a lot of that plays a contributing factor. And it's just like, right, no one ever wants to feel like an annoyance or, you know, especially being around. I mean, once again, that's something adults struggle with, like whether or not they can be friends with an ex. Some people are like, no, it's a scorched earth situation. Once we break up, you're dead to me. Like, whatever. The past is the past. I've had one situation. Well, I've had at least 2 situations where I've stayed friends with an ex. There's technically 3, but one situation was like we didn't communicate that often. We did like once in a while, but it wasn't like that. Another one was kind of awkward. The third one was awkward. I think I even talked about it before. Like, and the person started dating, and I tried to be cool about it, but it still sucked. So I you know, that particular relationship, I kind of really gets reflected in Sarah and Jordan thing. So like, I really feel that, but I also understand from Sarah's perspective of like you being so weird about it. So now they both said something they both regret where it's like, man, I wish I hadn't fallen in love with you. Yeah, I wish you hadn't either. It's just like, you're both drinking a little bit, emotions were high, so you said some stuff you didn't mean to say, but it's just like, it hasn't been the easiest thing to navigate for them. And so, like I said, I see both sides of it. It's not like I 100% agree with Jordan, even though like I would be the Jordan in this situation. I still have like, I have the perspective of like a 30-year-old being able to be like, oh, but I can also recognize like how uncomfortable this is for Sarah. Like Jordan's so in his feelings, he hasn't really taken the time to be empathetic or sympathetic and really kind of view things from Sarah's point of view. So, and kind of understanding like, right, she just wants a really good friend because you guys were friends first and dating and staying friends. I mean, once again, it's a thing even adults struggle with, I think, whether or not they can maintain a friendship with an ex or not. Some people can, some people can't. It just depends on the person, depends on the circumstance. And I'm curious to see what ends up happening at the end, especially considering how close to Kent's and God, I'm always blanking on their family's name because they're Kyle's family. Like they use his family last name and not Lana's. But yeah, like those families are so tied together. You're always going to kind of be in each other's life to some extent. So that's always going to be like a complicated thing. But police roll up because it's a lot of underage drinking. Especially because there are some minors there. I don't know if it's like everyone. Oh, because also like not kind of. I forgot. Yeah, they're seniors in high school. I guess for whatever reason, I was treating this like I don't know. I guess I was treating it like the UK or something. It's like right, like it's got the 8. I don't know why that would even like. It's like right. I was thinking like the only underage people drinking are Sarah and Jordan, but it's like no, like everyone is because at most any of them are like 18, 19 at most. So I was like, right, of course. Sarah and Dean Jr. were driving away, and I was like, oh, don't turn off the headlights. I get you're trying to get away from the cops. That's stupid. Nearly ran into a deer, tried to swerve out of the way. Would have died if Jordan wasn't at the party, so he ended up grabbing them, saving them, but he didn't pop off quickly enough because Dean Jr. saw him. And now when Kyle brings it up, because Kyle's been in his bag this episode because he tried to bring it up to Chrissy, and it didn't even cross my mind, like, of course he'd bring it up to Chrissy. You're dating a journalist and you're like, hey, she needs another story. This is a pretty big story in Smallville, but she brought up a good point of, hey, if there is a superpowered person, why are we going to out them? But for Kyle, it's all about the truth, because it's like, right, having everything that's happened here in Smallville in the past, while like, shouldn't we all be kind of odd? But it's also the same thing of like, yo, you don't want to put someone's circumstances on blast like that. But Chrissy's kind of torn because she's like, right, I'm into this secrecy because if Jordan's found out, which is kind of a no-no, like Clark could get found out. So I joined this secret club last season, and I don't want to screw it up by talking to Kyle about it. But he's kind of upset by it. And she tries to bring it up to Lana, but Lana thought like, oh, you wanted to talk to me about relationship stuff. Whatever's going on between you, Kyle, that's for you to figure out. Because Lana's got a lot on her plate. She's meeting with the governor and hoping that this could kind of help, her political career, like, oh, what this could mean for her going forward. I was like, for one, I'm also trying to remember, I was like, the governor, I'm like, what do I recognize that actress from? I'm like, I know her for something, but I can't place what I know her from. So, but both storylines in that regard kind of collide. Well, in fact, all three storylines collide with Jordan, Jonathan, as well as Sarah, Dean Jr., as well as the whole Lana and Chrissy of it all. Because, well, first and foremost, Jonathan's also in this awkward place where he's like, yeah, I'm kind of taking a step back from the firehouse. And it's like, oh, why is that? I don't want to talk about it. It's like, right. And just another thing he can't talk about because of his brother and his family's circumstances. So that was that. We caught up a little bit about Candace and her dad. Like, she's like, yeah, my dad has disappeared from time to time. So him being gone and not being able to know where he really is isn't really that new. The fact is, we are bringing that up. I mean, I doubt he's coming back to Smallville. He might have stayed away for a while. But, he might decide to, like, do something stupid and try and come after Clark to make a point. But that won't work out. That won't end well for you. But we'll see if it... I mean, who knows if that might end up tying into, like, the Bruno Mannheim story in some shape or form. He's in that criminal world, so maybe there'll be some overlap or something. We'll have to wait and see. Like, I just thought about that. Either way, circling back to it. Jordan did save Sarah and Dean Jr., but the thing is, he was drinking, and it's like, oh, his dad was upset, but it's more so like, hey, you lied to me and you also blew me off. Like, if you, once again, it would have sucked, but at least like Clark would have appreciated the honesty. Once again, truth and honesty is kind of a very big thing in this episode. Obviously, it kind of goes hand in hand with the Superman thing. So he's kind of getting a little pissed at Jordan because Jordan did have a little bit of alcohol. Jonathan didn't drink. He was just like, yo, I drank some water. Like, okay, you want me to apologize for Jordan drinking? Like, yeah, I'm sorry we lied, but we're trying to protect your feelings. And kind of, once again, he was like, probably could have handled that more tactful way, but I, kind of was like brutal and honest with his dad about the whole, like, yeah, we're not going to like shift our lives around just for your convenience when you can like find time for us. So there's that. Sarah's getting like a DUI for this. So she's probably going to, rather than jail time, they're probably going to end up giving her like community service. Kyle knows Sarah's lying because she says, oh, I didn't see what Dean Jr. saw because it's like, I can't tell, and then like gets around Lana and it's like, oh, like she's lying. Yeah, Dad thinks there's a superpower person. Oh, Superman? Like, no, someone else. And it's like, now it's like, okay, that was Jordan. I don't know. What do you want me to say, Kyle? He's like, I can't be around either one of you because I know you're lying to me. You're gaslighting me a little bit. You kind of do feel bad for Kyle because he is being gaslit. You have Chrissy doing everything she can. I love that the governor does not like Chrissy because like there was a certain thing she was trying to get a bill or something she was trying to get across or something. She had some kind of plan and Chrissy wrote negatively about it, so she's not the biggest fan of Chrissy. But Chrissy tried to like paint Lana as like, hey, Lana's daughter just showed up in the back of a police car. Oh, that's her cheating ex-husband. It's like, hey, she's actually a really good mayor, but the governor, like that's not going to go well for Lois and Lana in the future, I'm sure, because it's like, yeah. Also, that lady does not like Chrissy, and Chrissy could feel how dismissive the lady was towards her, so... especially when she had that conversation earlier about like, oh, he left you for a younger like bimbo model or whatever, kind of like a younger trashy model or whatever, which I mean obviously that shouldn't fall on Chrissy because like obviously they were already separated, but also it's like, yeah, it was a younger person he ended up leaving Lana for, but it's like he's with someone else but who's also younger, so it's like, but it, like Chrissy's gonna feel like that is also like the governor doesn't know about obviously Chrissy and Kyle, but it's still a thing of she still falls under the category even though she's not the person that Kyle cheated on Lana with, so either way, so we have all that. Then we tie in near the end of the episode where Kyle shows up because he's tired of being gaslit. It's like, John here is like, what? I think he has powers. I was like, I knew it because it makes perfect sense. You would think it was John, but two, I should also bring up, like, the fact is, I love that because it plays into the very Superman element of it, where it's like, right, why does the Clark Kent thing work so well? Once again, I've talked about this, I think I even made a video about it, because I always associate, like, right, that's a stupid disguise, all you're doing is putting the glasses on. It's more than that, because by putting on the glasses, you become a different person. Clark becomes clumsy. It's like, oh, how can someone so ordinary, so unextraordinary, be someone as extraordinary as Superman? So that's why in Kyle's head, like, yes, he'll justify it by being like, oh yeah, like Jonathan was there at the fire station and yada, yada, yada. But, I'm not the fire station, but the building when it was on fire, when like the building was frozen or whatever, right? But it's also because it never crossed his mind to think, well, maybe Jordan is too. They are twins. So he didn't even think like, oh, maybe both of them have powers. He just assumed Jonathan did, because it's that thing of like, right, Jonathan's always like stood out. He's all like, Jordan's always been in his brother's shadow, and that's why him getting powers ended up kind of flipping the script a little bit here in Smallville in so many regards. But yeah, because Jordan was so unassuming, like it never crossed Kyle's mind. Now a lot of stuff is going to eventually piece together when he finds out, because like, right, that's going to play into like Sarah and stuff, but it's also like, Sarah and Lana knew and they didn't tell me. To be fair, you and Lana were going through a divorce at the time, so it kind of makes sense why she wouldn't tell you. Kind of sucks that Sarah, but it's like, right, it was, it's not our secret to tell, but now you know. Kyle found out a lot sooner than I thought he would. I figured this be a suspicion thing, but I wasn't expecting him to like, the turnaround to be this quick, and also him finding out about Clark. Clark's like, no, it's not John. He's like, I gotta go. And Kyle's like, no, you gotta tell me that. He's like, I gotta go, Kyle. I'll explain everything later. Jets up. I'm like, Kyle knows now, and Kyle's just standing there like, because the same thing applies with Jordan. Like, it's like, no. There's no way Jordan could be the one with powers. And in his mind, he never would have guessed that Clark would be Superman because Clark is so clumsy and unassuming. It's like, whoa, how can you be this world's greatest superhero? There's no way. It's that. So, woo, a lot to kind of take in. I'm so excited to see where the next episode takes us with this. Like I said, this season's only 13 episodes, if that is true, which I think it is, but, maybe I was reading some wrong information. So we only got like 3 episodes left in the show. Not like exactly 3 episodes left in the show. So I'm so excited to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good